Hey guys, welcome back to Marked. Today with me, I have a good friend who has been on the show before. He used to run a youth organization in the area here and just been doing things that I don't even myself know what he's been doing other than from the little video he created about a year ago of a transition that he was going into. But yeah, guys, welcome, Chris. How are you, bro? How you been?
Doing good, man. End of a long day, so a little tired, but not too bad.
Hey, we all have those days where we're just running into, you know, things that just come out of the blue and we're like, okay, adapt, overcome. The whole like Navy model thing. I think it's Navy or maybe Marines. One of those for sure. But no, bro, I just felt like I need to get you back on here because, like I said, I watched that video that you were transitioning to Caleb Would Go. And yeah, just wanted to see kind of like what you were up to, as well as just dive into a topic, which is friendship. That's something that's been near and dear to my heart. We're friends. We've been like, maybe not hang out as often as we could potentially. But sometimes like those friendships are just like that, where I have friends who are in Europe and stuff like that, where I don't talk to them every day. If we get a phone call in on Skype or not Skype, FaceTime once a month, that's awesome because of like life,
Right.
different time zones, all that kind of stuff. And it's very, vital type of conversation, I think, that we need in this generation because everybody's trying to become more self and secluded, and community is important. And I think that one-on-one is just something that's special. But before we dive into that, I would just like to know, what you've been up to since we were on the last pod. What's kind of happening with Caleb Would Go, etc.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess since last time we talked, or since I was transitioning away from the 180 House and Youth for Christ, um, God was not really clear of what was next, but the word He gave me was Jireh. So it's like, all right, I'm going to provide, but He didn't exactly say how, which was kind of weird. So when we stepped out of working with 180 House and Youth for Christ, I stepped into doing like a part-time role as a working with Caleb Would Go and getting them off the ground. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it is a nonprofit we started in legacy of the amazing man Caleb Bell, who actually helped start the 180 House, along with a ton of other ministries as well. And he just had a heart for doing kingdom work wherever God called him. So he passed away in 2020, had a massive heart attack, and we created this nonprofit to just be a legacy of him. So our goal is to collect seed money and send people that have been called by the Spirit to go start some type of ministry somewhere or do something new. Our tagline is empowering the adventurous.
Come on.
So the first year we, I think we sent like 7 or 8 missionaries, which was really cool. And then this last year we sent, I think it was 14, which was amazing. And then this next year we have already doubled the applications of people that have applied. So we're getting ready to go through the process of releasing the funds that we raised this year. And we actually just finished our fundraiser. It's called Shaka Nar. Every year we do one fundraiser, collect a bunch of money, and then give it away, which is the fun part.
Oh, come on.
So
Well, if you're listening and it's on your heart to help Chris and Caleb Would Go, you know, reach him out. Is there like a website or anything like that you guys have?
yeah, calebwoodgo.com is a great place to check out sort of our dream and our vision and kind of what God has done already, which is really exciting.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's like a part of what I'm doing. I'm still I tell people I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So I'm 42, and the irony is I was working with teens who were kind of battling those same questions and people in their young 20s. And I feel like it's at this point where it's okay to be wherever you're at.
Yeah.
And I say that it's difficult. I'm not going to lie about that. But so yeah, I help run Caleb Will Go as the executive director now. I stepped into a more domestic role to help homeschool my kids. My wife can work one more day. She's a therapist, does amazing therapy and helps tons of people. So she was able to step in to do one more day doing that. We're building a house. So we actually want to,
Let's go.
yeah, we want to kind of use our house as a ministry. And so we're building a house that allow us to do that a little bit better.
In the area
And
or?
then, yeah, it's out East Venice. So
Sweet, bro. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's out in the sticks. So, and then I do handyman jobs on the side, and just whatever God provides, it's what comes in. So
That's
it's
awesome.
kind of weird, four different things, but
Hey, you know, you're
He's
a jack
providing.
of all trades, you know, and as the saying goes, people don't finish that. They're like jack of all trades, but still better than one type of thing. Like the ending of it is basically saying that, hey, it's better to know like all these little skills and just be able to, you know, be adaptable. But I was kind of wondering for, you know, I've done where I've stepped out of like a ministry that was running at a time. And you've been in that. What did that kind of look like for you? Like, was there any like challenges for you? Did you, like when you shifted from that, was it tough to kind of just like let go? Because it's kind of like a baby, right? In a way, at least
Yeah,
it was for me. It was kind of like this, baby thing that you took care of for a time. And it's, you know, you're handing it off to somebody else to take care of that, you know, if it is still keeps on going.
yeah. The 180 House is doing amazing. Youth for Christ is doing amazing. Um, the right answer I'm supposed to say is like I'm thrilled that it's continuing and thriving. Um, but I also don't grieve well, and so like I know that there's part of me that is still misses and deeply connected to that. Um, so yeah, it was a process. It still is a process. I think that I have to continue to live with
Yeah.
with it,
No.
and it's I don't know. It's cool to see how people are doing things differently than I would have done it.
Yeah. It's that like uniqueness of talents that God just invests into each single person. That's like, hey, this person's artistic, this person's more logical, and you know, neither is wrong, and it's actually more beautiful even when they work together and stuff like that. Or for a season, you might need more the artistic person versus the logical person, or vice versa, and stuff like that. But bro, I'm just happy that, you know, God's been, you know, helping you through all that and, you know, transitioning you and raising you into the next thing that he got you in. And, you know, that podcast we did last time, I had so many friends that said like, bro, that was amazing. And the book you recommended, by Mark, Comer, I believe,
John Mark Comer, yeah.
um, the ruthless elimination of hurry, bro, helped so many of the people that listened, and they're like, I picked it up, I read it, and it just helped them like slow down, kind of, you know, realize a lot of things that they're like, whoa, I didn't even notice. So yeah, bro, just want to thank you again for doing that back in the day. And you know, you were busy with, you know, your ministry at the 180. And so yeah, but yeah, let's just dive into, I think, that topic of friendship. So like, in your opinion, what would you say is like good characteristics of a good friendship that you've noticed?
That's a good question. I could answer through my perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so like my personality type is like an Enneagram 8, a challenger. So one of the traits that I hold very, very of high importance to me is loyalty and honesty and just being able to be vulnerable with each other. So I can meet somebody, and if they're willing to jump into the deep end of the pool, like hypothetically, like let's do this. Like I'll
Wow.
I'll go there. I'll have that conversation. So for me, like I'd say that's some of the most important parts of a deep friendship. To be able to be vulnerable and to be honest and to be open, and intimate and create space for that.
And so like, how do you gauge that kind of like intimacy part of like the friendship? Like, cause sometimes you want to go deep with a person, but you can't because maybe that trust hasn't been built up yet. And it's something that I myself have been struggling with because there was people where in my life I was like, I gave them a level of trust, but then that trust was broken. And
Mm,
so I was like, well, I can't live life not trusting anymore, or kind of just, living on that superficial kind of shallow depth of friendship. But I also don't want to get hurt again. So what for you, and I'm sure, you got older years than I do. Not saying you're old, but like you a brother, you a old brother. Wisdom.
bald head.
um, so like what would you say has helped you like to kind of gauge that and be like, okay, well, this person I think I could go to this depth with, this person maybe not. What have been kind of like the markers maybe, or the signs of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually don't know. I think it's ability to be self-aware of maybe some of the areas that, again, speaking for myself, that I might be guarded in that are keeping me, and maybe the reasons why I'm keeping me from opening up, but also the ability to read the room because even though I value honesty and vulnerability and openness and that, the other person might not, and that's okay. Which I've learned because like for me it's like, hey, let's do this, let's get real. Some people aren't wired that way. It takes a lot longer for them to get to that point, or they just don't connect as easily in that way. And so for me, I don't know, I think it's a view of seeing other people where they're at and just praying for God to discern and give you wisdom of like what is the next step. Because sometimes people don't want to go deeper than, a lot of times people don't want to go deeper than, keeping it superficial and shallow. And so I don't know, just being able to read the room and
Yeah.
being self-aware.
Okay. I got that. What would you say are kind of like some signs and symptoms though of like somebody who is like a bad friend or like a toxic friendship? Because like that's something in right now I'm like kind of in this stage where even though I was talking with my brother and he's like, bro, like you seem like you're cutting out a lot of people. I'm like, I am, and it's intentional. I like, for me, at least speaking from my position, it's like, I just see myself going places and I'm like, hey, if you're not willing to put in the price and the work to go that way, like I love you too much to like kind of hinder you, because like I'm essentially going to be dragging you, and it's like this illustration of like I'm holding somebody and they're tied up and they're going somewhere where they don't want to be, so they're hostage, and it's like it's not good for me because I'm having this anchor, but also it's not good for them because they're my hostage and they're not called to that place. And so like it's just a mutual understanding. I try to get to the person like, hey, love you, I want to just get to a place where I am supposed to go, and realizing like, hey, I may have to lose certain people because that's just to the level that they could accept me. And so like what kind of for you in your life did you see that was like, oh, that was a bad friendship symptom or toxic trait?
Yeah. So I had like a first thought that I'll share, but then something came to mind like literally as you were asking that, and it's kind of on the complete other side of that. So I'll start with the first one. Um, I don't know if like if you define the terms bad friendship or toxic friendship, I don't know if I like those words together. I would possibly maybe switch out friendship for relationship. So
Okay.
there could be toxic relationships and there can be bad relationships. But to have a friendship, and I just think of like in marriage or something like that, where things get really, really tough and really, really ugly at times, that other people might call toxic, but it's no, it's like this is just getting really, really real. And we're getting to a point in our intimacy, in our connection, that things need to change and we need to continue to adapt to respect and love each other well. And so I've recognized that growing up, having a group of friends that um, I would say that we we loved each other dearly, but we were not healthy. We how do I say this? There's like three or four of my good buddies from high school, and it was one of those things where we were like brothers. So nobody could mess with anybody else, but we would mess with each other in really like unhealthy, like picking on, teasing, bullying pretty much ways. And what that did to me for a very long time, it got me really good at comebacks and using my words to stand up for myself. And so I got really good at tearing other people down to be able to stay friends with these people. And that's what we did. And it was out of love, but it wasn't a healthy friendship. So it wasn't that it was a bad friendship. It just wasn't a healthy relationship. So we were still deep, deep friends. Like one of my best friends in that group lost his mom in a terrible accident. And like we were each other's network. But at the same time, we had a lot of unhealthy habits through that. But to the second part of your question, what came to mind was you're talking about you cutting people out, and please don't take this the wrong way.
Right.
I already told you I'm an
Yeah.
Enneagram 8.
No,
Like
we're raw,
I
bro.
push
We
back.
keep it raw.
Okay.
We keep it raw.
So I was literally in your shoes probably a year or so ago. Maybe it's like at the end of COVID, and referencing going back to John Mark Comer, ruthless elimination of hurry, like spiritual formation, spiritual uh just a lot of spiritual formation stuff is what I was pursuing. And there was someone who was in my life that wasn't at all, and almost like completely deconstructing. And I was like, yeah, I can't be pulling you, like this isn't going to work, like you're not helping me in my growth and all this other stuff like this. I literally didn't have time. It was a new relationship. I already had other friends, and I, we went out and hung out, grabbed a drink, and I was basically, it was almost like breaking up. It was like, hey, listen, I was like, love you to death, like let's hang out, but I can't really go beyond that because I just don't have the time or capacity to invest in this relationship. And I just wanted to be honest with you. And what he said to me was, just because we're not on the same like wavelength or trajectory, you don't think I have anything that I can offer in this? And I was just like crumbled. I was like, oh my gosh, like 100%.
Mm.
God can use you to speak to me. And he did in that moment. That I need to be very careful about not seeing people as imago Dei, as image bearers. Like every single person, no matter what their trajectory, what their belief, they are image bearers. And if they bear like the image of the creator of the universe, then there's a piece of the image of the creator of the universe that they can offer to me, no matter where they are on any different ideas or theology or political beliefs, any of that. They have something they can offer me.
Wow,
And I
bro.
need to try to find that.
That's I'm looking at that, and it's really deep thought. You're so right, because um for example, like I said, we haven't talked a lot, but I've been going through some things in life, um and like for example, last year applied to dental school, sadly didn't get in that rotation. It was really tough on me mentally. Just like rejection of that. It's like something you work for, since, for me at least, since I was 10, that I could consciously remember. I was like, gonna be a dentist, this is the path. And through that brokenness, I guess, I learned stuff about the relationship with God that I would have never learned any other way. And so why I'm saying this specifically in terms of what you said is because it kind of gave me this correlation of people who maybe are like you were talking about, that friend who deconstructing, going through things in life themselves. What God is doing in their life is so unique. I might not myself not realize it, but like you're saying, there's that image of like God on that person, made in God's image, that I myself have not gone through, and I can only see through that person. Anyways, just very profound thought that you just said. And I don't know if people like who are going to be listening to that like fully realize it, but once you go through it, I call it wrestling with God, because that was my thing last year. It was like, wrestling with God and living in this kind of like place where I never wanted to wrestle with God, but I was like, okay, God, been grinding, been through all these things, life has not been just smooth as butter, as they say. Kind of that whole thing just got into a snowball, and I'm like, God, this now, like, let's kind of get into this. And what I realized is when you wrestle with God, he shows you a facet of himself that he will like almost like, okay, test me. Like I think it's almost even healthy. I used to think like wrestling God is like, who am I to wrestle God? And I mean, you're fighting a zero sum game of like God's gonna win. He's like Kobe, like, and you're a nobody. He's gonna dunk on you and everything. And it's just that realization, like, hey, it's okay to go through these things, and there's like that lesson to be taught in whatever that person gone through. So thank you for sharing that. That was a very good thing, because I think like in general, I when I said cut out, I hope you understood me correctly. I don't mean like I don't conversate or anything like that. It's more of, for me, how that looks like is I call it an onion. I have my inner core group of friends, very small, tight knit community, where I influence them and they influence me. And I want those people to, have good discernment, all that kind of stuff. And constantly we like each other vet and make sure, going on that straight and narrow. But it's like, for me, it's like I kind of put people on the acquaintance level or kind of skirt out. And maybe for me, the reason that kind of makes sense, and I maybe I'm not doing this right. Like, don't take this as like, this is how you do it with friendship. But I'm like, hey, if I see that I've tried to help you for a season and it's not getting any better and you're still relapsing or whatever it is you're going through, maybe I'm an enabler. And that's where I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just not the help that is needed in your situation. And maybe like me distancing myself and getting somebody else to come in to fill that spot will help you move on with your life and get to a healthier place, which I can't provide just because of an inadequacy of maybe what you need. So yeah. Have you ever had to deal with anything like that, or like that frame shift of mind?
Yeah, like I think that's a huge balance of, I mean, even if we look at who is Jesus hanging out with, his label was friend of sinners.
Yeah.
And so we could say like, oh, he was Jesus, so like he's not going to be influenced by them, and he is going to influence them. But I think that's I can only speak for myself. One of the pieces of the brokenness of, I'll say, religion or Christianity or whatever you want to call it, of following Jesus or practicing the ways of Jesus, I've learned how to compartmentalize. Like, let me go learn about God with people who are learning about God. And then let me go serve people. And whether you want to say it or not, let me go serve lesser people who don't really know. They're like on a different level. And whether you say that like or subconscious, like it's there. Like everybody is like, we're gonna go here and then we're gonna go bless other people. And I think that's where, in my opinion, if we could flip it around and like we could invite people into that need to be served, go do community with them. Like, don't do community and learning here, go do community and learning with people who have like might not believe the same things you believe, and just like hear their stories, and don't look like down on them as like, hey, I'm here to serve you type thing. But it's, I don't know, a different balance in that. But I think we've made it really easy um, in the American church to be like, to compartmentalize, like, I'm going to go praise and worship, I'm going to go learn, and then we're going to go out and we're going to serve all the lesser people that don't really know. And, we hope that they come to be part of this one day. And it's not that that's wrong. I just think that it makes it almost a hierarchy of like a tiered system of I can't associate with these people because then there's that balance, like you said, enabling. If I'm over here feeding somebody or supporting them, like you could justify like, oh well, if they're an addict, then what you're doing is their food money now gets to go to drugs or alcohol or whatever it is that they are addicted to. And so for a long time, I had a hard time with it. And I realized it was because I have a huge control issue. Like I want to control what I'm doing rather than saying, all right, God, use me to go serve and wash feet and do whatever you're asking me to do. And then you're going to handle the addiction. I can't stop this addiction. I'm not going to be able to heal this person, just like I can't heal myself. Let me go serve and connect with these people, and let you do what you're going to do. And it's messy, man. Like it is as you've seen that you've probably had to like, and I know that you're not like, oh, cut it, you're out, but it's
Yeah.
like you've had to figure this out. And that's where I think that at the end of the day, in this conversation, I think in many different areas, we just need to be saying, I don't know a lot more rather than
Yeah.
saying, well, this is how many times you need to go serve somebody before, or this is how many times that a church will pay rent for this family before they cut them off. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, have a policy. That's probably wise. But
Bro,
I
so
just I just remember like the people that in the Bible that look for rules upon rules. Like Jesus was looking here, not at the policy.
no, it's so true. Like what you said, like, I don't know. Um, I don't know if you heard this in like, it's been recent, news, and I just found it on Instagram, but you've heard of Carl Lentz before, right? Hillsong
Yeah.
pastor who had
Hmm.
like a
Yeah. Yeah.
whole thing happen down. Well, he kind of recently did a pod where he was discussing, because he kind of just, he owned it. He's like, didn't serve anything for like 3 years. He just kind of, he had a choice to make between, he said, healing and saving face. And basically he's like, I chose healing and it was hard. But he kind of shares about friendship and what you're describing of like, certain stuff happens and, you kind of just get to a place where you're like, I don't know. I don't know. And admitting that is hard. Especially I think if you're been in a position of leadership, everybody kind of expects you to have those answers.
Yeah.
Or there's like this false ideology of like, you're perfect or you've reached it. And it's like, no, I'm reaching it like every day. Like like not striving, but like I'm putting in the work, right? That's required, the daily death of self, right? As the Bible talks about, the daily renewing of the mind every day, trying to get to that. But I've never reached it, right? Despite being in a position of leadership. And maybe it is one of those things where it's like in the Western church where it's like leadership is viewed as this type of thing where it should be perfection versus a process, like almost like stamping out like quick type of cookie cutter. Hey, you're a leader, like go do your thing, whatever. We see that you're gifted in this, go and do it. But and it's dangerous because it leads to this place of, and I know I'm going a little bit on a tangent, but from friendship, but it's like, it's dangerous because you get all these people who then might trick themselves into thinking they're perfect. And when they fail, well, they fail, but not only they fail, they cause everybody else who's following them to fall with them. And being to a place like, hey guys, I don't have all the answers. I might fail. I might mess up somewhere, and don't follow me, follow Jesus. That's the thing. So yeah, but going back on topic, little tangent.
No, I could have taken that like three other different ways, but I'll not.
No, it's all good. So when you have a family, if somebody is listening to this for the first time with like you as the guest here, you have a family, you have kids. How have you navigated the realm of friendship while balancing your family life and, ministry? Because family is a full-time job, bro, and it's so hard.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think it's, yeah, that's another really, you have really great questions. Um, it's hard because I think what gets praised in our culture is, and it's actually, it's biblical, like lay down your life here, like you make sacrifices,
yeah.
for your family. And so I think that that whole, I don't know, just grind and get through, do what you have to do to care for your family first is super important. But again, this goes back to an I don't know. I don't know what the healthy balance is. I do know that um statistics show like I almost say like it was really high. 96% of men don't have a best friend like adult men.
Wow.
Like a best friend because they have like their intimates, but not just like one. And I think that's one of those things that if you look back, his like in everybody's life, friends are really easy. Like they're literally given to you when you're a kid. It's like, yeah, it's who sits next to you at lunch. It's who's on your soccer team. It's, who lives next door. Like they're given to you. That's what you don't really have a choice. But once you're an adult and when we live in a super hyper individualistic culture of a you do culture, it takes a lot of intentional work to make that happen. And with everything else that we have going on, that's something that just gets kicked to the back burner. But there's a author, former pastor named Pete Scazzaro. He came out with this whole curriculum called Emotionally Healthy Discipleship, Church, Relationships, all the different stuff. But one of the things he says that I love is that you cannot give what you do not possess. And so if I'm not taking care of myself to connect well and feel loved and feel connected to a close friend, then how am I supposed to give that through me? And you could say, like, oh, you're supposed to get it from God, 100%. But God also created community. And if we're not spending time doing that, then I'm not going to be the dad that I need to be. And I haven't balanced it well. Like, I don't have um a ton of like close friends. Like it's tough. It's hard work to make it happen and to be intentional and to schedule the time to do that.
And I think that right there is like something I relate to on a huge level because I used to, well, I don't know if it's just the problems and everybody kind of likes to be around a winner, but like when I was quote unquote taking W's, I felt like I had a lot of people around me. When I started taking L's, I'm like, where the people is that? you know? And so it got to a place where I'm like, God, is this just a lesson you had to teach me? Like, don't rely on human, rely on the Lord, because if human praise raises you up, that same human can, with their stoning and spitting and all that, bring you down. That was something that I think I had to realize because you can talk about it and comprehend it, but apprehending is a whole nother thing, bro. It's like that when you go through it, you're just like, okay, God, I got you. I got that lesson. But yeah, bro, it's hard. It's hard finding, even like when you get older, I think finding friendship is just something that's, if you find it, good job. And be like, try to treat it as much as you can, water it, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it isn't something that can happen overnight. You got to water it. You got to put in the fertilizer, all that stuff, and keep moving forward with it if it lasts. But to kind of wrap it up, because we're getting to that time where I know you're a busy dad and everything else, got a family. I wanted to ask you if there's any friendship that really significantly impacted your life positively or maybe negatively. And you don't have to say names, but something that like really was like, boom, Maybe it was a dad or your dad, a dad. I don't know why I said it like that. But, you know, even though there are spiritual dads, you know, I do believe in that. Um, yeah.
Oh man, I don't know if I have an answer for this one. This is um I mean,
Skip,
I
skip.
would yeah, so you
Yeah.
can skip this, but
Let's skip this
I
one.
don't know.
Okay.
Like I've had, like I said, my friends in high school and everything else like that. Like I had friends but I think, I don't know, there's the cliche that the older I get, the less I know. I'm still learning at 42 how to make friends and how it has changed and adapted since I was a kid. And I've learned the healthy, like I've learned something, whether I've actually recognized it or not, through every friendship that I've had, whether it was a good friendship, bad friendship. I don't want to say bad friendship, but like whether it was a tough loss, a breakup, anything like that. I think if you don't, and this is something that I do a lot, is I'll reflect on how can I get better? What can I do to keep that from happening? Again, going back to that illusion of control, like that I can make this next friendship work better than the last one. I can make changes from the person that I was, or actually I can't even do that. I can posture myself in a way that God will use me to be, the canvas and the clay, and he'll continue to form me to hopefully be a better friend.
Hmm.
Um, and then also to be able to, yeah, to learn more from the people that are around me. So to say that there's one, I wouldn't say there's one. I think I've learned a lot from. It's kind of a uh, icing answer, but yeah.
No, that's good, bro. And just to kind of finish this up, if you were to look back at your life and you were able to have a time machine, um, what advice would you give your younger self about friendships, about maintaining friendships or building friendships? What would you say are like, hey, pay attention to this, don't pay attention to this?
I would say younger Chris, be aware of how you are and how you like to be loved is much different than how other people are and how they like to be loved. And I think that it literally was in ministry that I went on this self-awareness journey, and to find out more about when I challenge somebody, that makes me feel connected. But and I say challenge, like when I'm getting in a deep conversation, when I'm getting vulnerable and intimate with somebody, like or just having a debate, whatever it is, I feel closely connected to their soul. I did not know until I was in my 30s that there are a lot of people who are backpedaling through all of that, and it is very, very hard for them to do that. And I did not do a good job of creating space for people in my life that I love dearly. I know we're ending, but I'm going to throw this one at the
Go
end.
for
But
it, bro. Go
my
for it.
wife's a therapist. I don't know much about it, but
Go for it, bro.
there's a attachment theory. There's
Okay.
anxious and avoidant, are the two main types. I'm not an anxious person, but I have an anxious attachment, which means that I need everybody to love me. And so if there's an issue between us, I'm going to pursue you and chase you down until we're cool. That's not how everyone's wired. Some people, when they get near confrontation, it's no, 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 no. I don't want to do any of this. Like that's not it. I'll figure this out and I'll heal and I'll come back and we'll be good. And so learning about my attachment style, my family of origin, like what that looked like as a kid growing up helped me a lot. And then also helped me connect more with other people a lot better, learning more about their attachment styles.
Hmm. That's so good, bro. And by the way, you know, I'll talk about this after the call, but your wife sounds like a very knowledgeable person. And, you know, hey, maybe I'll have to put it like in the description for her sessions or something like that, bro.
Ashley Lorenz is amazing. Heart to heart counseling where she works.
There you go,
Hit her
guys.
up. She's brilliant.
There we go. Well, Chris, Thank you again, bro, for coming in and, well, digitally coming in. And
You made it easy.
yeah, bro, sometimes it's just like it just makes sense for people with this format. And I do like doing it in person. I mean, but like I said, you have a family, and I feel like this is just so much easier for a lot of people. And I'm grateful for technology and all this. But I believe this will help people. I think it will impact their lives. Yesterday, I don't know if God's just doing something, but yesterday I had Mark Kosh or Cook learn how to pronounce his name finally. I was saying Kosh this whole time. And he does action sport, and I know you used to do the action sport.
Ride Nature. He's amazing.
Still
Yeah, I
do it.
love what they do.
Yeah, and like, bro, I was like, I don't know, God just kind of set this whole thing up like back to back, like of you guys. So I don't know, maybe something's happening. I just don't know it. You don't know it. The Lord knows. But yeah, check it out, guys. Check out Chris's older episode. I'm gonna pop it up somewhere over here. And yeah, bro, thank you for having me as somebody to share this perspective of yours on friendship. And see you next time, guys. Peace.